You are walking in town with two buddies. It's on a Friday night. You just left a pub. You only drink one glass of beer, each one of you. You're all three going home now. While walking, someone passes by and stabs one of you. After stabbing, he walks away very fast. None of you were aware that one of you were stabbed. It's only after 20 minutes, when a lot of blood became visible on the shirt, that the other two realized, hold on a minute, this is bad. Now, what's the most important thing here? Is to get the one that was stabbed to a hospital so that he can be treated. Because he will die if he's not being treated as soon as possible. Now, what if I tell the parable in such a way that instead of going to the hospital, the victim is showcasing his wound and the blood coming out of it? You may think, what? Rashid, that will never happen. Nobody that's been stabbed and realizes they are in danger would do that. Well, maybe not with a literal physical stabbing. But let me tell you, a lot of people hold on to the victim mentality or the victim role. Yes, a lot of people do. And it's not always people that have been through a lot of bad stuff that do this. There are many people who hold on to the victim role just because their will was frustrated. Yes, I said it. There are a lot of people holding on to the victim role because their will was frustrated. That's it. Not because anyone did them anything. But regardless whether there was really something bad done onto them or not, the victim role has its benefits. That's why a lot of people cling onto it. The number one benefit of the victim role is that it's not you. So whatever happened, it's not you, so it's not your responsibility. You don't have to deal with anything. You don't have to take any responsibility for anything. The second benefit is that you can trick people. I'm not saying blackmail directly, you can trick people into giving sympathy to you. And because of it, you can feed off of the positive vibes of other people. And that feels great when others give you positive vibes. But in this case, they don't give you positive vibes naturally. You've tricked them into giving you positive vibes because you're playing the victim role. So you're really draining the people. And because those people, from their own volition, are helping you or are giving you sympathy or empathy, you can always say, I never asked for it. While indeed it was you tricking them into giving it to you. So again, this comes back to the first benefit. You don't have to take any credit, nor accountability, nor responsibility for anything. Really, all the benefits that come with this victim role is you being given a carte blanche or a license to be passive aggressive without ever being held accountable. You don't have to face anything, and you can get away most of the time with a lot of bad behavior, and people won't stop you. Think about the wife that had an affair multiple times. She often blames her harsh treatment. Let me say she often blames the harsh treatment of her father while she was growing up. Now hold on a minute. Hold up. That was almost 20 years ago. She's not a little girl anymore. She became a teenager, she began to date, she had several boyfriends, and she finally made the decision, this is the man I'm staying with. So what does the harsh treatment of her father during her upbringing has to do with the husband she's cheating on now? It has nothing to do with him. She may indeed have developed some mental issues, though to how her father treated her, but the moment she realized that she had issues, the moment she realized she was burdened by what happened, it was her responsibility to realize, I need help. She's not responsible for what happened. She's not going to take responsibility for that. She can't because she didn't do it unto herself. However, she should have realized, I need help. I need to be free. should have gone for safety and seek deliverance, but instead she seeks relief. And she's so used to seeking relief that she doesn't want to let go of the relief. During her late teens and early 20s, she would go from boyfriend to boyfriend just to seek relief. She realized after a while that that lifestyle ain't right, so she decided that she wanted to settle down and have a family. But she never let go of her relief seeking. So because she still holds on to relief seeking, she doesn't feel comfortable with her husband, with only one man. She needs to have attention of multiple men. Instead of facing this about herself and really going for the solution, which is to be delivered, but in order to do that, she needs to face herself. So she needs to face herself, realize she's exploiting and abusing her husband and the people around her. She's lying to people, facing herself, admitting it, look for deliverance so that she's free from it, so that she will recover. But instead of going for healing, she wants the easy way, relief. And now she's playing the victim so people won't hold her accountable for what she's doing to her family and to the people around her. That's playing the victim role. Look, there are people who really have gone through quite challenging stuff and they really need professional help or they need time to recover. You have such people. In such cases, it's obvious that you're dealing with someone with legitimate issues. And people with legitimate issues seldom want to showcase it and be open about it. If they are open about it, it's because they're sincere open about it and they sincerely want help. But then you have people who may not even have challenging issues, but they just want to be left alone. In the sense that they don't want to be challenged. They don't want to be held accountable. They don't want to participate in justice. They don't want to participate with justice. Remember that. They don't want to participate in with justice. In or with, I don't know which one's the correct one, but okay. They don't want to do what's right. They don't. And even if they do what's right, they'll grumble. And they'll use that as a victim badge. They did what's right, and look, they don't have any reward. There are people using the victim role in the sense that others have a victim role, and now they're using their victim role against their victim role. It can be that a husband has a wife that's complaining all the time and arguing all the time. She's playing the victim. But now the husband is doing the same by pointing out her victim role. And by pointing out her victim role, he's really saying that he's taking responsibility, which is not the case. He's just highlighting her victim mentality to cover up his own. That also happens. Now look, the victim role, as I mentioned before, the only benefit it gives you is being relieved from responsibility. And in many cases, you can trick people in letting you off the hook. But in letting you off the hook, they're not doing you any favor. Because you don't heal, you don't recover, you don't get any better. You only get worse. And as time goes by, people tend to drop you. There are people who are blind and can't see through your BS yet. And that's why they are with you. But the moment they find out what you have become and what you've been doing to them, they will regret all the time they spent with you, and they realize they can't get the time back, so they'll turn on you. And don't expect to ever see those people again. Look, I'm not saying this because I assume you have a victim role. I don't think anyone who kept watching my videos for a long period of time has a victim role, because I always speak against the victim role. The victim role or victim mentality is really what the world is teaching you, but they don't teach you it directly. Let me explain. The world tells you to be honest, to be direct about what you want. The world tells you to vindicate your will. But however, if your will is wrong, you need to face it. But the world doesn't teach you this. The world tells you if you're fed up, annoyed, or if you want something, just say no, be assertive, enforce firm boundaries, will whatever you will. People just have to take it as your life. You only live once. You can't get time back. The world teach you all these things about vindicating your will. They never tell you to look at the bigger picture and to evaluate your will. So what happens now? When you begin to vindicate your will, it will work because it's your will. But after a while, if your will is wrong because you have unexamined expectations, you're the one dealing with the effects of it. But instead now of facing that it's your will, you're the one willing it, you begin to justify your will. So what are you doing now? You are playing the victim role. You're holding on to the self-imposed limitations or boundaries that you enforce on yourself. So what you're doing now is saying that the other is at fault for the decision you had to make. Look, if someone tried to stab you and you push them away, okay, then they provoked something in you. Your survival mechanism, that's different. But not that you see someone, they don't match your expectations and now you're fed up with them, just like that. And now you don't like them and you're firm and clear that you don't like them, you develop a will against them and now you're dealing with the consequences of that heaviness. Well, who chose to have a will against an individual? You did. Who held on to it? You're the one making the effort in avoiding the individual or talking down about the individual or ignoring the individual. You're the one doing it. But it's your will, so-called. So you cannot be at fault. Do you see here the victim role in action? A lot of folks don't recognize this as playing the victim, but that is what it is. Christ said to love your neighbor as yourself. So when you don't love your neighbor as yourself, then you're in the wrong. But the world tells you it's your will, it's your life, it's this and that. But there's still consequences, naturally, if you go against the word. But because we want to defend their will and their so-called private sphere, whatever BS they come up with, they now have to find justification, and they find justification by support of others. While they still take responsibility because they do what they will, instead of being truly responsible and evaluating that will of theirs. The victim role is what the world is teaching you, but they teach you to use it in some circumstances. They teach you it's bad in some circumstances, and it's right in other circumstances if you do it correctly. That's what the world is teaching you. But I'm telling you here, the victim role has its benefit, but the benefit is short-lived. In the long run, it will not benefit you at all. So, what am I teaching you here? Unlearn this passive aggression that the world taught you. Because that's all it is. It's passive aggression. You may not see it as passive aggression because you look at the outworking. And when you are operating in passive aggression, you tend to get things done. You tend to have your way. But just because you have your way doesn't mean it's right. Look, I gave an example in a previous video that when women operate in the natural femininity, they don't have to be in this toxic people pleasing because they can refuse stuff and still people are at ease with them. Because even when they refuse stuff, they don't do it out of fear or out of hate or out of rejection. They do it out of their natural femininity. And people will be comfortable around them without them having to give in to the wishes of everyone else. And then the women don't have to be, I'm saying as it's like bitches and have this bitchy attitude just to be protected, just to prevent exploitation. Why? Because they operate in a natural femininity, and that's powerful. Okay, but the world never teaches females to operate in a natural femininity. They don't. They only teach women compensation tactics. And all this compensatory behavior, it works, but it works in the long run against you. The same with men, but I already spoke about men so often. Look, passive aggression or the victim role, it works. Okay? It works, but it works against you in the long run. And here's another thing. Taking responsibility doesn't mean you take the blame for everything. It just means you do your part in this. Well, I'm saying this means that you participate in solution by doing your part that you can do. There are things you can't do, and you acknowledge that, but you participate by doing your part. That is what it means to take responsibility. It doesn't mean that you blame yourself or hold yourself accountable for all outcomes you encounter, because you're not the only one walking on the earth. So you can't be responsible for every outcome you encounter. You're not. Okay? So being responsible also implies being realistic, being real. And here's the thing. Passive aggression is not real. Passive aggression is only about getting what you want and defending what you want, but not examining or giving account of why you want it. Not even considering if it's responsible for you to even want it. But passive aggression is the way of the world, even though the world may not acknowledge this. And haven't you noticed that people that tend to behave in narcissistic manners always have their reasons why they're doing stuff? And have you noticed that the environment often, because they don't want any conflict just either ignores it or they get along with it? They enable it. Now, I'm not telling you to start fights all the time. I'm not telling you to go to war every time, but there are times people have to be reminded that they can't just will whatever they will. You don't have to shout at people, you don't have to punish people, but just develop a climate of accountability in which people realize, 1 minute, I can't do this. I need to be realistic here. But worldly people in general just want relief. So they'll get along with passive aggression of others, as long as it doesn't cost them too much. And that's what the world is teaching. To use the victim role as long as you don't cause too much disturbance. That is what the world is teaching you. No matter how many articles the world publishes against the victim mentality, when you look carefully at it, that is what the world is teaching you. Even if they tell you to take responsibility, they do it in a sense of you victimizing yourself. Let me explain why. As a human being, you're a vulnerable creature. We know that. And because of that, you need others. Yes, you have your role, your part, that you have your contribution, but your contribution doesn't guarantee all the outcomes. You have others also with their contribution. So for you to so-called take responsibility for your life simply implies that you become the god of your own existence, taking full charge of all the outcomes. And the world even teaches you that you're responsible for everything that happens to you. What? So if someone is drunk in a car and he drives into a crowd and one of your relatives dies because of it, and you're now suffering, so you brought it on yourself. You're responsible for it. What? Do you see how twisted and sick that thinking is? So even when they tell you to take responsibility, they do it in a sense that they teach you to victimize yourself. By blaming yourself for something you can't be blamed for. By the way, this whole guilt and shame way of thinking isn't even from the Lord. That's something you need to be delivered from. That's why I'm telling you, beware of taking counsel from the world. Look, if you have a car and you need advice on how to handle the car, or if you're about to buy a new car and you need advice, you can go to a counselor that's specialized in cars. You can get your counsel. I'm not talking about that, okay? But when it comes to life issues, sensitive life issues, beware of taking counsel of the world, even counsel of so-called believers that hold on to darkness. Because the world is run by pagan rulers, narcissistic psychopaths who worship Satan, who agree and enforce the beast system. So if someone is not in agreement with Christ, that means that somewhere they have agreements with the beast system, even if they're not aware of it. So without the meaning of error fit, they will transfer the beast system onto you. Does it make them evil people? No. It just means they're deceived and they can be used by the enemy to trick you. I'm not saying they can't have anything valuable to say. They can have something valuable to say. Just put what they're saying in the proper context. Okay? Well, that's it for now. Agree with Christ and be at peace.